Because I'm Freddy. Okay. So howdy, everybody.
What's up? Morning.
It is morning, isn't it? Wait, why? I totally.
A little later for me than you, but yeah, still morning.
I need to just close that window because that was confusing. All right, here we go. So, wow, what a study this morning, huh?
Yes, sir.
I am pretty amazed on this. So, let's go back here. Back to the beginning. Okay, so what did you get out of that first part of Deuteronomy 7, if you got anything?
God having to speak plain as day to his people. I don't know. Even today, like we need to hear this. I don't think we're very different than them. But he just really had to spell it out for me. Like I love you and I made a covenant with you. But it's like, just simply don't go after other gods, and I made a covenant with your fathers and I intend to keep it. And that covenant is a blessing which will multiply, But it's simple, but it had to be said.
Right.
It just makes me think of I don't know.
Something 2, verse 13, talking about the multiply. He's going to bless you and multiply you. And then he will also bless the fruit of your womb. So kind of sounds like the multiplication part, right? The multiplying of you is making you be able to grow so much, kind of like when you have a plant come out of a seed, since that's what Yeshua talks about so much, with the things growing and being fruitful. Hi, Jimmy's daughter.
What's up, Jimmy? Yeah, I didn't catch that. I'm glad you pointed that out, because you're right. I mean, there's a reason it was stated that way, even though it's usually looked over, myself included, because it had to say the fruit of your womb as well. I just always kind of read that as one multiplication, but yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it today. I mean, it kind of looks like it's sort of different, because it says the womb, and then the fruit of your land, the corn, the wine, the oil, your kine, or cattle, another word for cattle, flocks of your sheep.
Yeah,
nobody's going to be barren. Not going to have any of this. What was it? Low sperm motility. No, we're not having any of that. Verse 14 is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Not going to have any of these. We need to do freeze a couple of your eggs and raise them in a test tube.
Right.
Nope. You are going to be dropping babies. Plop, plop, boom, 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 boom. Okay, maybe not plop, plop, but
blessed above all peoples.
Blessed above all people. And let's see, I took a couple of notes. They're not until later. Anybody in chat? What do you have? Anything for chapter 7? And that, or if you got anything else?
I wonder if Yeah, verse 15. The Lord will take away from you all sickness and none of the evil diseases of Egypt. And I'm just kind of, it made me think, is that because Egypt, like, is it stated that way because Egypt was fresh on their mind? Were there only specific diseases from Egypt, or did they even really know much about disease before entering into the slavery of Egypt? Was that just a part of that being enslaved to him? It just made me think, because it just doesn't say evil diseases; it says evil diseases of Egypt.
Right. I believe it means the diseases that you saw in Egypt, right? Like if you go to certain countries, good example, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Japanese developed a disease called beriberi, and it was because they they took their brown rice and cleaned it, right, scrubbed all the husk off of it, so that they had white rice, and it was a status symbol to be to have white rice if you ate white rice. But there was a nutrient in that, in the husk of that caused them to all have this disease, and they got whooped in a Navy battle. You know, this is according to historians and medical researchers. But it was a disease known to the Japanese, right? It wasn't, the British or, the Egyptians at that time. So I think it means the diseases that they knew in Egypt. But somewhere else, though, and I'll do a search for it, it talks about diseases of Egypt. I can't spell. Oh. In Deuteronomy 28:60, so it's later, 60 and 61, it says, moreover, talking about if they are going to be disobedient, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, so the ones you knew about, and they shall cleave unto thee. And then verse 61, and also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. So, two answers to your question. That the diseases, yes, the diseases they knew about, but also they're told later on, and even more diseases.
That you reading that, it just made me think about the please stop. It just made me think about that concept of blaming things on man again.
Right.
Because there are diseases that you don't even know about, but it's like there's theories out there that man created Ebola, and I'm not saying God did, but it just made me think of that.
Yeah. Rebecca asks, did Egyptians have chronic sinusitis? Don't know. If they did, they probably called it something different than we call it now.
I will say, every time I look, this is kind of off subject, but every time I see a musician, because there are even some in that proclaim to be writing Christian music, that men that wear eyeliner, and it just makes me think of Egyptians, because the darkening of the eyes thing. It's sort of the ways of Egypt to me, especially when a dude puts on. I don't know. I know it's off topic. It's just whenever I see that, even in Hollywood, it's like it just makes me think of Egypt, and to not return of the ways of Egypt. That's where my anyway.
No, it makes total sense to me. Yep, that. And and shaving all the hair off of every part of your body too.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the Egyptians.
And my grandmother asked once, because this was when I was younger, right around 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
But she said that she was doing some research, and she saw that before men would perform a jihad, where they would basically commit suicide, they would shave completely. They would remove all hair from their body before they. I don't know if that's a connection to. I'm not saying that that's like a Muslim practice. I just I don't know. It reminded me of that whenever you said it.
Right. So Lynn's asking, so if we are following his commandments, does that mean he will bless our offspring even if they aren't? I believe that 13 is spoken directly to each person as an individual. Verse 13. And he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. Because if you go back to verse 12, wherefore it shall come to pass if you hearken to these judgments and keep them and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers. So he's already talking to the children, right? About the promise that was sworn unto their fathers. And basically he's telling them, each of you need to keep this.
Yeah, I'd agree, because I'd add that there are other instances among different generations of the same group of people where certain ones rebelled and God caused the earth to swallow them up, or other ones rebelled and he caused famine or like a plague to come through the assembly, and certain ones died and others didn't. And that was among the people of Israel. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely on an individual basis.
Right. And then at the same time, you have those rabble rousers that, what do they call them? Like a group leader.
Instigators.
The instigators, yeah. They get a number of people to follow them.
Right.
Yeah. It covers that, I think, a little bit later. So what else do we got? Anybody else for anything in chapter 7?
Let's see.
That verse 19 is worded interestingly. I don't know how it's worded in yours, but in King James it says, the great temptations which thine eyes saw. That's the temptations, huh?
Mine says the great trials that your eyes saw.
Okay. That would make more sense to me. Moreover, 20, moreover, the Lord thy God will send the hornet among them until they that are left and hide themselves from thee be destroyed. And I don't know if anybody's been stung by one hornet or multiple hornets, but talk about effective at getting you out of a certain area.
When I read that, it just makes me wonder if hornets are. I've said it before, but like we don't. Many people in today, I'm just using Israel for an example. The Israel that this book is speaking about isn't necessarily a nation state. So it goes to your perception, which it made me think, I wonder if the hornets of today look exactly the same as the ones of, around that time. If the grapes were this big, it makes me wonder if the hornets were giant or more fierce, or they could have been exactly the same. But I'm just thinking it when I read it, I'm like, that had to be like a terror. Like there's something that we're not And I know I'm speculating. It's just that's where my mind goes. I wonder if the Hornets of today were the exact same thing, um, because it
Well, our
could have.
father, he could make a special hornet too, special whole bunch of them. I mean, out
Yeah.
here we have the tarantula wasp, and those they get pretty good size. But they don't bother humans
Hmm.
yet, or that I know of.
Do they spin webs?
Tarantula wasp? No.
Oh, tarantulas don't spin webs, do
Tarantulas, yeah. Well, they line their hole with webbing.
they? Right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
They make like a burrow.
Yep. And then they use it like any other spider. They wrap up whatever it is they kill. But tarantula wasps kill them and then
Hmm.
lay an egg on them. And then when that hatches, that larva eats the tarantula. And it doesn't kill the tarantula. It paralyzes them. So basically the tarantula is being eaten alive.
If you have nothing else to thank the Lord for, just thank
Mhm.
Him you were born human. That's just thank Him you were born human.
Right?
Oh, animal kingdom is terrifying.
And yet they're scared of us.
Right. Jeez.
It is. No, forget where that was. Something about the hornet. What verse was that?
Let me let him out. I'll be right back.
There it was, 20. Okay. Now, what the verse 25? The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or the gold. So that tells me there's some sort of spiritual attachment to that stuff, right? The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. You shall not desire the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, well, lest you be snared therein.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of that too. It made me I don't know if it was that specific verse or if in a later chapter, but I started thinking about it's quite possible some of the gold that people are going after, and trying to acquire more and more of. It could be. I mean, it's possible that some of it could be mixed in with some of that stuff. And I was thinking from a spiritual thing, it's like you really don't want to put your hands on something that was dedicated to a idol.
You mean like gold today?
Well, I'm just saying I mean, because gold is gold, so it could be mixed in with it. I'm not saying that all gold is cursed, but I'm saying like the covetousness and the love for money, and the love for the material good, like
Right.
making an idol out of that, it could actually lead you. The spiritual realm seems to work that way, where you can like unknowingly be led to acquire some of that gold, mixed in, which brings on a um I won't I wouldn't dare say like curse, but it's just not something I'd want to have. I wouldn't want a piece of the golden calf. Um, so it's just that's what it made me think of, was like the wanting it and making an idol out of the concept of gaining more gold could lead you in the direction of acquiring some of the gold that was a part of an idol. But I mean, you're making it an idol, but you know what I mean? It's kind of compounded.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Lori asks, why did they put the dust in the river? I don't know, but then they had to drink it. So I don't know. There's a claim that ingesting gold will kill any sort of pathogen that's living in your body. So I don't know. Maybe they had parasites from coming out of Egypt from eating strange meat.
Hmm.
Where in the world is Emily when you need her? We need some parasite information, Emily. Whoever's at Take on the World, ask Emily about this.
Is that going on this weekend?
It is this weekend.
Hmm.
Parasites can commandeer your brain. Yep. Oh, wasn't a question. And how
Well, you stated it like a
we need to
statement.
watch, Lynn. We need to watch some Schoolhouse Rock, apparently. Okay, because that question mark goes at the end of a question. All right, I'm just harassing you, sister. I love you.
I was resisting the urge to sing Conjunction Junction.
And that, look at that. That was how many? That was decades and decades ago, and it's still, that stuff's in our head. You can't tell me it's not programming.
Right.
Yep, I had interjection stuck in my head the other day. Yep. Yeah, okay. Anyways, okay, I think that's. Oh, but that continues on in verse 26. I'm glad that I noticed that before I started going ahead. It says, "Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house, lest thou be a cursed thing like it." These things can contaminate us.
Yeah.
But thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to frame it, but it made me wonder. I don't know how I could tie it into that, but I see sort of a difference. Not on everyone. I'm not making it out to be like the world in general, but there are people that I knew as a child that were very loving, and we had a good relationship and family members, and they're different now. There's just and towards others, and I don't. I get that people change. It just makes me think. I don't know. It's like that being turned from changed from within. Like before, I mean, I was a selfish individual and making really horrible decisions, and it's because I refused to listen to anything God was trying to tell me. So it can go in either direction. But I'm just saying, whenever when you were saying it's a cursed thing, uh, it just made me think of being changed from within for the. I'm not saying them. It just made me think about someone being changed for the worse by something they can't see. The spiritual,
Right. Yep. Like people buying their, what do they call them? Their spirit guide crystals or whatever.
Right, and right, yeah.
Like that little tiki on the Brady Bunch. Okay.
Been a while. Been a while.
All right. Anyways, there's I had a friend. His wife went to some gym show or something and bought herself a crystal necklace, and she's like, "Oh, I can feel its power over me and all this stuff." And like within like 2 weeks of buying it, she like lost her job and got in a car wreck or something. It's like she just doesn't see it at all, and she's looking at it like, well, it's a good thing I got this crystal, or I might have been stuck in that horrible job, or I might have been hurt worse in that car wreck.
Right.
All right. Howdy, Sabbath. Okay, let's go on to chapter 8. It's Our fathers beating the same drum. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall you observe and do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers. Verse 3, we have where Jesus quoted to the devil when he was being tempted. The second part of that, and he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that a man doth not live by bread only, or bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. Which, when we get up to chapter 9, I've got an observation about that. So, what about that 40-year-old clothing? I got some clothes that are 25 years old, and they're showing wear and tear.
I had a $200 pair of steel toes that lasted 5 years, and I literally walked through them. And that's the oldest pair of shoes that I think I've ever had.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's not. Well, no. It's interesting. That's amazing, and I wonder if it was really one of those things that they even had realized it until after, like they had moved from. I know it's a 40-year season, but if they moved from that season of their life past that, where he's reminding them your clothes didn't wear out and your shoes didn't wear through, and I just wonder. I don't know if they had really realized that, like even understood that that's what was happening. Sometimes you don't recognize the miracle until after, like you're in a different season. It just made me think of I wonder if they comprehended that their clothes, you know what I mean? It's like walking around for 40 years and you're not even, I don't know.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. I had a similar experience, something like that. It was on a personal, in the very beginning of my when God was sort of calling me out of darkness, and I had just began to start seeking God, doing a lot of demons in my life, and I was working construction, and I don't know what, I can't remember at this time what it symbolized, but one of the guys that I was working with, this was a job I later left because it was just bad stuff, but one of the guys handed me a caulking gun. We were finishing up the outside of the house, and I could see where it was at. It was almost completely empty, and as a matter of fact, he had even stated to me that you're probably gonna have to change it out because we were finishing up the job. I just had to seal a few cracks, a few seams all the way around the house, and I made it almost 3/4 of the way around the house. I mean, this is a fairly large house, and it wasn't until I got almost to the end and I went, wait a minute. And I realized how much room that I had made, and I was like, this thing, and it was a lot. It was the entire house, and this whole time I'm praying with God, and I don't remember at this moment what that it meant something to me at the time, sort of like my cup filleth over. It was like a small. There's no way that the people on the job would have believed me. I think I kept it to myself, but I was like, as soon as I realized that I had made it around this big house with this one thing that was almost empty when he handed it to me, is when I ran out. It's sort of what I was trying to say earlier about the clothes. I didn't like that happened, and that was it. I know it's something small, but at the very beginning of my walk with trying to be obedient to God, it was like I wouldn't call it a miracle, but it was like he was trying to make himself manifest to me, just say, like, hey, like I'm real, And
Yeah.
anyway, so something that small though, and it meant so much to me. Just to see, But
Wow. Yeah, it does. Lynn was talking about laundry detergent that never ran out. She didn't have money for laundry soap. There was always soap in the container.
Yeah.
Yeah, chance. I've been there with that one, man. That true story, man. I used to have this 59 Ford pickup with a 292 V8 and broke and unemployed, and me and this other guy scrounged together like 53 cents, pull into the gas station, and it was on empty. We put 53 cents in, and we drove around all day on that. So, wow, man, there must have been more gas in there than I thought, but I don't think so because I've run out of gas in that truck. So, interesting. Little mechanical miracles.
Right.
But the rest of the chapter, I mean, it talks about how it's going to be so abundant in the promised land. After going through the terrible wilderness. What is that? That was chapter 8. Let's go on. That was 8. Let's go on to 9 now. What do you got? Come on, people, talk to me. Talk to me. Yeah, Jimmy's car is definitely running on spirit. Yeah. Yeah, my stepson's wife, when they were really poor, living in a RV, she pulled into a discount tire. Someone asked him for a used tire, and they were like, "We can't let you drive on any of these tires. We can't." And she's like, "I don't have any money." She's all, "I'll buy a used tire," and they put on a whole set of tires for her. Grace of God. He's able to make all grace abound unto you, but that they would say, nope, there's no way we're letting you drive on those, or you're gonna die.
Right.
But I've been driving on them for 8 months. Yeah.
When I bought my bike, the one that almost killed me, it had wires showing, and I didn't have an understanding of how dangerous that was, and I would ride it in the rain. So I eventually bought some tires, but the miracle is how long that I drove around on it and never tipped over. That should have, I really should have gotten hurt, and I was just ignorant to how dangerous that is and how bald the tires were.
Right.
There's no way that I kept that bike up on my own. That's for sure.
Yeah. I know it, man. Let's see. We've got giants.
Yeah.
In this one, he goes before us as a consuming fire. That's a recurring theme throughout Scripture. Consuming fire. Right? 2 witnesses. When they speak, fire is going to come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
The Spirit of Yahuwah, Spirit of our Father.
Doesn't that translate to long neck? Is that, or am I thinking of a different?
That is Deuteronomy, chapter 9. What is that? 2?
Yeah.
All it says in the Strong is descendant of Anak. So let's try the Smiths real quick and see if something comes up there. Ah, yes, it does. Long-necked. A race of giants, descendants of Arba, dwelling in the southern part of Canaan, in particular at Hebron, which from their progenitor received the name of City of Arba. Anak was the name of the race rather than that of an individual.
Right.
And it goes on. All right. So, saw myself on there and I was like, who's that with Landon? All right. I think this is very important for all of us, that it goes through and he tells them very specifically, he didn't do any of this for their righteousness, right? It's not for your righteousness that I'm doing this, but I'm doing it because they are so wickedly evil that it has nothing to do with how goody two shoes and perfect you are. Because you're not. And I think we all have the tendency to fall into that when things are going good. It's because I'm so wonderful that the Lord just pours blessings out on me. No. Don't get cocky. Don't get arrogant. It's an easy trap to fall into. Oh, Sky left. Bye, Sky. Hey, that rhymed. I'm a poet and didn't know it. I can rhyme when it's time. Okay.
Oh, please stop.
All right.
Just kidding. Yeah, I think that's important too.
Well, this is something I forgot to write down. But talking about he was given the tables of stone, right? How big were these, do you think? I mean, we always have the traditional view where Moses comes down the mountain carrying these two big, I'm carrying, the Ten Commandments. But, one in each hand, like super big stone tables, as it says here.
That's like 400 pounds a piece, actually. I mean,
it's a lot of weight.
You ever moved a granite countertop? I mean, I don't,
Yeah. Some heavy stuff. But I was thinking, how do we know they weren't as big as a cell phone or something?
Yeah, they have those cuneiform tablets are much more common, actually. I mean,
right.
That's how they would write, was something about the size of my hand.
Right.
It's very, very possible.
Some translations don't say stone; they say sapphire, which is like the second hardest stone, or one of the hardest natural stones. So that in and of itself would have been a miracle.
Right. Yeah, to come down a mountain with words cut into something like diamond, just there's no way that immediately the people would know that he, like when he says, look, this is what God gave me, pay attention to it. There'd be no question. And I guess that's why we don't hear any stories of people question it, Yeah, it wasn't a common thing. I think that's a good point. I've never really thought about that, but it's most likely not a giant, stone tablet the way that it's portrayed in movies and stuff.
Right. Yeah. The movies, they always make they always make the Hebrews, the Israelites, look like dirty, scuzzy people.
Yeah.
You know, well, we're all wearing burlap sacks and don't groom ourselves at all.
Right.
That type of stuff. You know, kind of like the portrayal, like how society portrays people in the South or mountain men. You know, it's always, you know, they're gross, dirty people. Yeah, and that's not the way I've seen it. Lori says she saw a good shirt that said Moses, from the first to break a tablet and download from the cloud. That's pretty entertaining. Okay, so he gets angry, right? Our father tells him, okay, they made a molten image. You need to go down there and talk to these people. So this is after he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. It makes it very specific point of telling us 40 days and 40 nights. Then he comes down, smashes the tablet, right? Tablets. And in verse 18, right? Well, 17. Let's start at 17. And I took the two tables and cast them out of my two hands and break them before your eyes. And then in verse 18, and I fell down before the Lord as I did at the first, 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water because of all your sins which you sinned, in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord. So did he fast for 80 days and nights? 80 days and 80 nights? Did he have a snack while he was coming down the mountain? I mean, it doesn't say any of that.
Right. I don't know. I always kind of saw it as sort of like the Nazarite vow. When it doesn't, like, I know we're talking about two different things here, but when it says it that way, I've always interpreted it as like when someone takes like the vow, you're not supposed to eat like grapes or touch a dead person or anything, and when you do, like you shave your head and you start over if you're gonna take it again. It doesn't mean that you go out and drink a bunch of wine because you can touch grapes before you retake the vow. But I just I see it like he probably had a meal, but that's just my interpretation. It could be that it's just to specify he fasted and then he had to go through it again without. But I don't know. I don't know. He might have been too sick to eat.
Maybe. I've had that. Chance says, oh no, one of my kids left the gate open, got 11 dogs loose. Be right back.
Whoa.
Man. How about please help him gather those dogs quickly?
Yeah.
I'd just bribe mine with cheeseburgers or something. So, I mean, I don't know. Just, I can't see him eating when he's all angry.
Right.
Down the mountain. Not that he couldn't, you know. I mean, he might have done that. And then who was talking about this? The calf getting stomped and ground into dust. And here it doesn't talk about making them drink it, but it says that where in Exodus, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was.
You know, though, and then back down here in verse 25, too, he's fasting, it sounds like another 40 days and 40 nights at a different time period.
Because the Lord has said he would destroy. Right.
He did a lot of fasting. No wonder
6 months.
they had to hold his arms up at the battle.
Right. Huh. Everything is.
All right. So, all right, let's scooch on to 10. Anybody got anything from chapter 10? Talks about the building of the ark and the new tablets being written on, new tables of stone.
I'd like to see what acacia, is that how you say it? Acacia?
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see what that looks like.
We got it all over out here. We got 2 different species. We got mesquite and we got ironwood.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
But they're pretty stout trees. They got a real dense green. Of course, it's a desert wood. That's why. Real dense green. Real curly.
It's pretty.
Yeah. That the ones you see in Africa that are like real tall with the big spread out canopy, those are a species of acacia too.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
manna snack. I know. Can't wait to see what manna's like. Little tiny things you make into dough and then cook it. Hey, Heather and Gary. Oh, on the wrong one. There we go. So what else we got here? And this is basically a rehash of going through laying out the priest's offices. And Levi is going to be set apart. The tribe of Levi.
Yeah.
Let's see, there was something in here.
But to fear the Lord your
This
God.
commandment 16, just talking about this with Jimmy. Circumcise, therefore, the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. Now, you know, because they figure once they circumcise their foreskin, they get arrogant. I'm glad I said arrogant because I was going to say something else and that wouldn't have sounded good. Anyways, they got arrogant because they did that physical act, but they were still disobedient with all this other stuff.
Right. God of gods and Lord of lords. There was something in here. It stuck out to me because I know Dr. Michael Heiser did a study on it. I don't think that's the verse that I'm looking for. It might come up later, but I don't know. I don't have a point. It just made me think about the. I don't put too much study into the different ones. I just like to have a better understanding of well-rounded what it actually means. Like I'm personally in First Kings, and it reached the point where we started listing all the different ones, and it just made me, yeah, my mind goes in a bunch of different directions.
And then where do we go?
It just, I guess my only point is that, the biblical, the idea in ancient times of the lesser gods with lowercase g being appointed over different areas because the people wanted to worship, different things cut from stone, and there's only one that's loving and
Right,
shows people.
right. And that I
But
think some of it too is worship of what we would call angels or sons of God that were appointed over certain things too.
yeah, yeah, they remind us a lot. Like, no, not me. Don't
Right.
don't bow down. Yeah,
But there are some though that are like, yeah, go ahead.
right.
Go ahead, worship me. You can worship me. Oh, shucks. All right.
I don't see him acting.
Okay. Chapter 11. What do we get there? And, more of the account, a summary of what their wandering was in the wilderness. Verse 6. And what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of Israel. That just reminded me of how we're also told that heaven and earth will witness against us, will witness against men.
Yeah.
And the way science does it, well, the earth's not alive, it's just inorganic. And then the other end of the scale, you have the only true God has got us earth, man. Hug the dirt. Love your mother.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. About the whole earth witnessing against, even there's like a story, and it's not a religious belief at all. I think it's in Japan. I was just following I know there's a lot of nonsense on all across the world, but there was a guy just reporting on a story that these rocks in Japan are believed to be alive, and they swallow people if you jump on. I don't know if it's folklore or what, or how the myth became, but when I saw that, I don't think it has anything to do with any religious belief. It just made me think of the story in the Bible of that happening.
What is it?
There,
Oh,
there
rocks
there's
swallow people up?
yeah, there's these boulders. I believe it's in Japan. It's this area, and there's nothing but boulders. It's on the side of a long stretch. It looks like a hill, but it's a mountain, and people will jump across them to the next boulder. I mean, they're pretty big,
Right.
and there's just these stories of people going missing, and somehow it turned into that the rocks ate them. Um, it could be nonsense. It just, when I saw that, it made me think of the story of when those people who rebelled were swallowed by the earth.
Right.
I don't know if it's true. don't know. I don't know where it came from. We just saw it on.
Well, that's a total rabbit trail, so I'm gonna shut that down. I
Sorry.
put in Japanese rocks eating people, and then I got a whole bunch of videos of people everywhere but Japan eating rocks.
Oh,
So then I put Japanese stones that eat people, and got a whole bunch of stuff about Japanese cannibals.
no, Lord.
So we're just gonna let that one go to
Yeah,
rest.
my bad. My bad.
No. I wanted to see it, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I got, what did this mean? What's it say in yours? I think it's verse 10.
For the land that you are inheriting to take possession, for the land that you are inheriting to take possession of it is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and irrigated it like a garden of vegetables.
Okay. Yeah, here it's in the King James, it says, water it with your foot, with thy foot.
That's one of the footnotes. But it's got a number here, and it says in Hebrew, watered it with your feet. So,
Right.
which confused me.
Right. So basically, where you're going is a lush place, a lush, fertile place. Pretty cool. What else we got? You're going to have rain in your due season, grass for your cattle. Verse 19. Well, it's a continuation of 18. Shall lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them, your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Basically, everything we do, we're thinking about this, thinking about his word and his commandments he's given us and the promises he's made to us. And how it's not because of us, it's because of his mercy that we get it. Howdy, JJ. I did write that down. Cool. Okay. So this in verse 24. Every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall your coast be. Is that pretty much what yours says? Verse 24.
Yes, sir. Every place on which the soles of your foot tread shall be yours. Your territory shall be from the wilderness to the Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates to the western sea.
So, in looking at that, that just brings me back to the series we're doing on Time's Almost Up, right? The rivers are a natural barrier, and we got the Euphrates River almost dry. Basically, it's allowing spiritual entities that couldn't in the past cross that river to cross over. And
That's how Babylon fell.
right, to be in that land. And yet Babylon's still around.
That's
Did you
some
catch all
scary.
your dogs, Chance? I'm sorry, I just saw someone say
Go ahead.
oh, I guess not. All right. Anyway, sorry, bro.
No, you good. You good. I love the puppies too. I was gonna say it's a scary. It's like spiritual symbology, and I never looked at it that way. I didn't when I was watching your video about the rivers drying up. I didn't make that connection about Babylon. I mean, that's how the most fortified city with wall after wall after wall just came to nothing because they were able to go in from where the water created a barrier, and they were, yeah.
Here it comes.
Hmm.
Okay, let's go to Isaiah. Where were we? Isaiah 49. What was in there? Anybody in chat got anything? Starting at verse 14. Yeah, that's pretty much an indictment against Israel there.
Yeah. I tell you, at the end of chapter 49, that I don't know. When we were reading it, I was just like, man, it's a nice promise, but I would about the prey of the tyrant being rescued, but all in the same, I will make the oppressors eat their own flesh, and they shall be drunk with their own blood as with wine. I was like, just
Yeah, it's harsh.
mm,
And then you get into the things. If you look at like that certain soft drink company that was had someone working for them, a company that was working for them that derived flavorings from aborted humans, from murdered humans.
yeah, they're making all sorts of strange things now. They're
Nasty stuff, man.
right.
All right, let's go. What about 50? 50 verse 1 through 51:3. Anybody got anything? That verse 1 is pretty powerful right there. Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities you have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. So he never ever gave up on them. He never gave up on Israel. It was all their own doing. But then verse 2. Wherefore, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all that it cannot redeem, or have I no power to deliver? course he can. He always can. He can always redeem us and always deliver us if we go back to being his obedient children. And that's the amazing grace, right? It's right there.
Truly is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lord has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious. I'm turning it backward.
Right.
I was stuck on, because right below what you were reading, it says, "I make the rivers a desert." And I was like, oh, we were just talking about that. But yeah, whenever when you said "Amazing Grace," I just glanced up to verse 5, where it said that the Lord God has opened my ear, and it kind of speaks to where, because of the way that I really began to. I say begin, but it's like he was there before. I knew that God existed because of my background, going to a private school, being taught the Bible, but I was taught religion, and that didn't work. And it wasn't until I became rebellious, as I've said before, started blaming all my life problems on God, that he really started speaking to me. But I guess it was, him humbling my heart that turned me towards him, to recognize. I don't know. I don't know why I ever took him for granted. I guess just because I could. But thank God that he's not a bad, still just a non-caring God. Like, whoever's gonna love me is gonna love me, and whoever won't. I mean, he at least gave me the opportunity to turn towards him. Because I was not in any way, shape, or form trying to do any of the things that were some of his principles. I think that a lot of people have this idea of hell, or the torment itself, as like a physical pain, and I'm sure that that's there, but everything good that's within us is of God, and to enter a place where God is not there, you don't. I don't think that even the worst human couldn't not really comprehend the darkness that's there, like the good, the happiness that we feel, the joy, the love,
Right.
and going to a place where, like, that all comes from the Father. So the Father being absent of that place, and anyone who enters into it, it's like we just can't comprehend that it's everything good within us is of God. And a lot of people take that for granted, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Because I'm righteous. No. No. Yeah. And that detachment, being in a place where we are just ourselves, being left with just that, has got to be a rude awakening. I mean, it's a rude enough awakening for those of us that have really taken a serious look at inside. Said, wow, you know what? When I measure myself by what our Father tells us to be, I've fallen really short. Really short. And it's a hard place to go to. I can't imagine being totally detached.
Mm.
Like the retina in an eyeball of a college football player. All right.
Do what?
I don't know, it made sense at the time. So detached retina, right?
I was gonna say I'm not making a connection, but I realized it was a pun, and I was like, no, don't.
Right, right.
Anyway,
So not too much more in the 3 verses of 51 we read. Let's check out that Matthew 16. We just read this a while back, our household. And that, it's a lot of power in this short passage here. Oops, I dropped it. Anyways,
let's see.
We can still apply this to today. Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? Right? Who do men say that I am? And if you look at this, right, recently, the past year, there's been all kinds of like special edition National Geographics that are like, who was, and then naming some biblical figure. And one of them was, who was Christ? Like, National Geographic's going to be able to identify that for me.
Right.
But I'm sure they sold millions of copies of it, There was another one, who is Moses? Who was Moses? Anyways, but look at the deception and lies you get if you ask that of people in the world today. Well, who was Jesus? Well, he was a prophet. He was a prophet like Muhammad. No, not at all. There's people that say, oh, he's just a man that was a good guy. He was just a good dude. And we're back to a point now where people have lost a reverence for our Creator, for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
That, you're even seeing stuff like, well, Jesus was really a gay woman. That that's why she turned the establishment of men on its head. No, not at all. Okay,
Yeah.
That's garbage there. But I'm sure, that's not what they were saying. Well, some say you're John the Baptist, and some say Elias, and others say Jeremiah or one of the prophets. And I'm sure that's not all they told him, right? Because surely they'd heard things that was coming out of the mouth of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Mm.
But then
some of them say you're a nuisance.
Some of them say you're trying to overthrow Rome and need to be executed.
Right.
He could hear all that. But then Peter, who do you say that I am? You are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Right? You don't get that revelation from flesh and blood, right? But from our Heavenly Father only.
That's what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When I mentioned Dr. Heiser earlier, he did there's an interesting, but it's about an hour-long presentation he did about this verse. On this rock I will build, and he got into, because he had been to the area, and he was saying that it happened around. I'm trying to think. It's around around the Temple of Pan. It's close to it, and a lot of the people at the time believed that was the actual gates of hell. That's what they called the area
Right.
that they were around. And he said a lot of it is translated to on this rock I will be able to build my church, and the gates of hell will not be able to prevail against it. And in the English language, it makes us think that the church is just getting pummeled, but you know, in the end, Jesus will defeat him. But it's just like Satan's just doing whatever he wants and victoriously just beating the church down. But a more accurate translation would be that the gates of hell will not be able to withstand it, meaning now that the church is the one that is,
We're going to kick them in.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that was an awesome presentation that he did. I wish if I knew the name of it, I'd throw it up in chat, but I don't.
Right. Is it Mount Hermon?
I think so. Yep.
Okay.
Pretty sure. It's got pretty green and blue, like starry in the background. He's on a stage talking. So it's a good talk.
Yeah, Mount Hermon. That's also where the 200 fallen angels came down. It's also where there's a United Nations outpost there. Why would they put a United Nations outpost there?
Right.
At the top?
Same reason they name the things that look up and stare at the stars acronyms, like the former name of the fallen angel.
Right, Lucifer.
You couldn't come up with it. Like, that's not by accident. That's carefully plotted out and planned. Like, how can we make this work?
Right.
Oh, fine.
And that's the Vatican. Okay. Very interesting. You know what? I think we should name this thing that looks up Lucifer.
All right.
Right? Or is that Omen music? Oh no,
Yeah. When I was first doing research years ago, I don't have a way to vet it, and I try to be more careful with my words today because of the whole power of life and death, and being judged by, just I try to be more cautious about what I speak. But I once read that the statue of Saint Peter, I think, or there's one where everyone goes to the Vatican and kisses the foot. I believe it's either Peter or Paul. I don't remember which one. That's the name of it. But because I was really big on history and I don't have a way to vet it, I've never been over there. But they said that it was actually the statue of either Neptune or Jupiter. It's an old Roman statue. And when the Vatican took over, they just said, that's not Neptune.
Whoever.
That's Peter. That's Saint Peter. And these, people will walk up to it and kiss his foot. It's a golden foot. And it's like, one, it's idolatry, but two, it's like that could be a deity, an old, lowercase g of something that people actually worship. It's just probably best not to make any image whatsoever.
No.
So,
or hearken to it, right? Anybody? This is awesome. But look at the trends in that. That's one thing about trying to get across how ingrained our society is with obsessing over changing how our appearance is from how our Father made us into something that conforms to the world. It's an image that we're projecting, right? Whose world is it?
right.
Right? And it started with women, Well, if you got blonde hair, you need to be a brunette. And if you're a redhead, you have to be, dark black hair. And if you're blonde, you have to be a redhead, or just crazy stuff like that. And your eyes don't look good enough. And if you're skinny, you need to be fat. If you're fat, you need to be skinny.
Right.
If you're flat, you got to be bumpy.
If you have wrinkles, we'll inject stuff in your face, and your eyebrows will slide down and look like brackets.
Right. And yep. But now it's men too. It's same thing. You got hair where it doesn't belong. Your hair's the wrong color. You can wear makeup, right? No, I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
It is okay, honey. It's okay for you to have things just the way you are. That's the way you were made. Keep it that way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hardest things we have to let go of, because we're inundated from day one, right? Well, if you want to be cool, you got to look like a superhero. If you want to be cool, you got to look like your favorite sports athlete, your favorite whoever.
Yeah.
If you want to be, accepted, if you want to be accepted of the world, right? I don't get it. We're out in the middle of the desert and we got all these people that are Green Bay Packer fans. Okay, that's fine. But that's in my opinion, doesn't matter what it is, Dallas Cowboys or 49ers or Green Bay or, the Boston Celtics, whatever. It's all part of, that's what you're identifying as. That's what you're putting on that image as, right? We're told to put on that image of Christ, put on the image of Yeshua. But if you do that, boy, are you going to be ridiculed and mocked and made fun of.
Yeah, and I'll say, when I tried to conform to the image of the world, I think this was in the beginning of, not in the beginning. I don't know. I don't remember the exact process, but it was the sort of the beginning of me starting to blame my problems on God, because I reached the end of my rope as far as the works of self. So I began to work out and became obsessed with my image, and made good, fair enough money and all that I wasn't worried about that. And I would spend just hours, every day, making sure that I was perfect, that I looked like a Greek sculpture. And it was the loneliest time of my life. I mean, it didn't matter. And after that, I remember having a bunch of resentment, and that I couldn't do anything else to bring what I thought would be happiness. Though I'll say, I don't think if anyone would have came along, I'd have been happy anyway. It was just the idea of chasing after that, wanting to be loved, but going about it the wrong way.
Right.
And when you were mentioning earlier about people spending all this time to look a certain and conforming to the image, I have a better appreciation now of like the more natural, lady, and more of a respect for it. I think it's more beautiful, and I think similar to going after the gold of the calf, and the way that it's a cursed thing. I'm not saying that you're going to be cursed putting on makeup. However, spiritually speaking, I think that there's as far as the process goes of conforming to the world, you're going to attract a worldly, individual.
Right.
If you're conforming to the world, you're going to attract worldly people, and it may not be hip to everyone else, but I have a much better, and I guess it's easier to find, the right people to hang around, because they're just different. They're peculiar people. If you meet them,
I
they're
do.
not gonna fuck with
I understand, man.
you. No.
All right, we got people dropping like flies. So
Oh, sorry.
what? Where'd you go? You flew away.
My computer died. I was trying to plug it in.
All right.
Yeah.
Sabbath year. When you get to that age that when makeup just stops working, when you start having to go buy your makeup at Home Depot with a putty knife, it's time to give it up. All right. Everybody, Landon, thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you all.
And you. Appreciate you spending time with me, with all of us.
I appreciate it too.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Love you all. Enjoy your day of rest and be blessed. And thanks for going extra over with us, too. That was still awesome. Wonderful time. And I hope you had a good time, too. Remember, our Father wants to love you and wants to bless you and wants to make you abound. And open your heart to him. Hear him and be obedient, and he will. He keeps his word. So, everyone, adios.
See you later.
The delayed broadcast shut down.